and I'm in the great company of Marina Caneve, who develops artistic projects exploring the notion of artistic research. In 2023, she received the Italian Council Fellowship. Other awards include the Padiglione d'Arte Contemporanea 2023, Strategia Fotografia, Premio Luigi Ghirri, Dummy Award, Cortona on the Move. And you also exhibited internationally in institutions such as the Maxi in Rome, Fotohof, Institut Néerlandais, La Triennale, and your work also belongs to public and private collection. You are the co-founder of Calamita, an interdisciplinary platform with a focus on catastrophes. You combine your practice with teaching as well. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank
and
you.
we are here to talk about this incredibly rich, I'm very biased, I have to say, because I've recently curated a show on the animal instinct, so anything to do with animals is really dear to me. And your book, On the Ground Among the Animals, which has a very literary title that you'll tell us more about in a second, is really a very thorough exploration of something that I have to confess I recently found out, actually thanks to your research, about the existence of this hybrid, weird infrastructure, wildlife infrastructure. Just the very name sounds like an oxymoron. How can you have wildlife, and then, which is something that you associate with freedom and nature and spontaneity, with infrastructure, which is very, architectural and artificial. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about what these things are and how you came across them and how you developed this incredibly multi-layered research.
Yeah, thank you, Federica. I'm very happy to be here with you, especially because this book has a lot to do with text and images, and you're a great expert on that, so I think it's going to be interesting. Well, the project is a project I started 9 years ago when I was living in the Netherlands, and I was offered the opportunity to make work, and there was an overall topic which was the word paradise. So I started to think about how it looked like and how, for instance, the Garden of Eden was represented. And I realized that was always a natural space, closed, and inside everything was beautiful, and every species was living in harmony, in great harmony with the others, and outside there was a chaos. So I thought that I wanted to find something in real life that looked like something like that. And then I started to research, and I found out about this European project, which is called Natura 2000. And it has different goals. One of them is to preserve biodiversity throughout the European Union. And what they try to do is to connect natural reserves with bridges for the animals, in simple words. But actually, these bridges for the animals are called wildlife crossing devices, which I like a lot, because wildlife includes both animals and plants, so it's really about biodiversity. And crossing device is something that is more than a bridge, and in some cases that they are not literally bridges, but also devices to allow animals to pass. So that was the starting point.
And after so many years of research, what's your impression? Do they work somehow? Are they really facilitating this passage?
That's a question that that I'm always asked, and well, that's really something explorative, let's say, and it takes a lot for experts. I had the chance to work with the French Foundation for Biodiversity that connect me with experts in every country that I visited, and I visited 13 countries in Europe. And they always explain me that they make attempts and then they discover failures because it has a lot to do with the behavior of different species. And you should imagine that on one bridge there are it's like an ecosystem, so there are so many different species, and the different ones needs different type of plants, different type of slopes, different. It's really like a way of dealing with all these species, and that's something that has to do also with this title of the work, coming back to On the Ground Among the Animals. On the Ground Among the Animals comes from a quote from Kafka, from a letter that he wrote to Felice Bauer, which was one of his girlfriends. Well, one of the girls that wanted to be a girlfriend with Kafka. And he replied to a letter that she wrote to him, where probably she wrote about a dream she had. And he wrote, however, I do want to interpret your dream. Had you not been lying on the ground among the animals, you would have been unable to see the sky, and the stars wouldn't have been set free. And perhaps you wouldn't have survived the terror of standing upright. And this standing upright for me was really important, because it was actually the center of the project. It's about the fact that we stand upright towards the other species. And actually what this project is like also talking about, it's how we build our relationship with the other species, trying also to change our perspective.
And after observing these many bridges or structures that exist in Europe mainly, I mean, you visited the European ones. I hope you will expand the project on a global scale. Have you identified a sort of like a taxonomy or typology in kind of like in the veins of Bernard La Beja for like the water towers? Is like, would you say that there are some common elements?
Yeah, there's a lot that has to do with photography as well in the project. There is a part of the project that is actually typology, is black and white picture of these bridges, and they are all photographed as architecture, and that was really important to me because I really wanted people to look at the object. And in that sense, there are no people, no animals, it's really no cars. And you should imagine that these bridges are built on very trafficated roads. But that was the goal. It's like if they are sculpted objects. And yeah, that was really, really important to me, to have them as objects. And then these objects or these typologies dialogue with another part of images that are made with another photographic code. Within another photographic code, they are colored images, and they have to do with letting us understand how all this structure is super well organized by, you know, the people that build them. So, for instance, something that is interesting is the fact that these structures only works if they are completely fenced. Otherwise, animals will just go wherever they like. And also, there's something that has to do with monitoring. So there are cameras everywhere that monitor the movement of the animals, and that's for knowing actually if they work or not, which is really important, but at the same time it says something about...
yeah, it's surveillance at its best.
Exactly.
And you also, this is a beautiful black section at the middle, in the middle of the book, the infrared images, but also the thermic camera that are used by the military.
Yeah, actually there is a section printed in black paper in the book that has to do with images that comes from infrared cameras that are placed on the bridges that document the movement of the animals, which are more known, but also images from thermal cameras that are cameras that give a different typology of images. They are more pixelized, and there's a pointer that follows the thing that moves, which are normally used for military purposes, and that shifts completely the perspective, I will say, especially because we should think that this project has to do with the overall idea of Europe and the freedom and movement, which is also questioning in a way.
Yeah, there are a lot of contradictions in this project that, as you said, has perhaps very good intentions, but then in the practicality of its realization, and your photographs, I think, are quite strong in really shedding a light on this double soul of artificial and nature, but also surveillance and freedom in a way. I also was wondering, there are many texts in these books, but blissfully they're not the typical text that you would expect in a photo book, where there is a typical critical essay that tries to, connote the photographic work in the canon of the history of photography. But there are texts that really open up new reflections and also contributions that are more kind of infographics and not necessarily like a text. And actually they help us reshape our perception of mapping in Europe.
Well, the thing is that there are actually two things that have quite of the same purpose, and one are all these texts, and one are pictures that are not photographed in the natural areas, but are photographed in museums, in like natural history museums, or in places where there are representation of animals or stuff like that. And both these texts and these images that I like to call a cultural environment are actually a sort of cultural environment that would like to open up the perspective on this natural structure. And I think they should be there. And I really wanted them to be in the book because I like to give possibility to open up thinking, and that's also the way I work myself. I like to see a thing, but then to look at it straightforward, but then look from always like a lateral perspective, and then to find connections that open up our way of thinking. And therefore there are texts from architects that have been like radical thinkers in the Italian history of architecture, like Superstudio, and Superstudio wrote text about living bridges, which are something totally different, but still they can evoke a different relationship with nature, or instead the text that starts talking about animals in animated movies, and then arrive to arts or infographics, as you said, that point out about the movement of different species in different areas of Europe, or a beautiful text from an Italian writer who's died 2 years ago, and that actually in his book seems like to talk about my work, even though it wasn't, but it was really working, because then novel as well becomes part of this thing. And also I like the fact that there are many different styles of writing, because as photography, it's I like the fact that we think not only to the subject of the project, but also the way we use the different languages that we are working with.
And also you had the chance to work with a very talented designer, and we know all very well how design is important, especially when we are dealing with so many different types of images, text, information, and hierarchies, and the book is published by FW, and you also have a beautiful installation here because you're part of the sector Emergence with the Gallery Montrasio, right? And you will be signing the book just after, at 5. Yeah. At 5, yeah. So thank you so much for being with us. If you have any questions, she is obviously very happy to respond to either here or later at her book signing. Thanks so much.
Thank you.